If you mention the word fax to anybody that doesn't work for an organization that serves the healthcare industry, they're going to give you a confused look. According to Insider, if the person you mention that word to is a part of the Generation Z, they might not even know what that is. They'll probably think that you're using the widely accepted slang used to agree with someone, or fax, instead. Yet even though it's widely assumed that communicating via a fax machine is obsolete, it's actually growing in popularity. This growth isn't due to nostalgia like vinyl records. Businesses use faxing to communicate with another business because it's secure. In fact, fax usage grew by almost 30% in 2017 alone. That means that the perception that no one uses this type of communication anymore because it predates the phone is flat out wrong. Now, I'm not trying to shame you if you fell within that category. I was in the same boat until I conducted research before recording this video. If you're in healthcare though, the statistic above doesn't surprise you. I'd even wager to bet that you've sent a fax already today. I'm so confident with that statement because 90% of healthcare organizations still rely on communicating with another by fax. But why do doctors and health professionals rely so heavily on faxing? It's one of the most secure forms of sending messages on the planet, and it has held that title for decades. As a result, healthcare organizations may send faxes back and forth to one another without needing to worry about receiving a fine from the Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS, for violating Hipaa. Yet, healthcare entities can't assume that faxing makes them immune to experiencing a breach. They still need to implement additional steps to safeguard the data that they're sending to one another to further mitigate risk. Now, one of the most effective ways to avoid any potential violations when sending this type of message is by creating and utilizing a HIPAA-compliant fax cover sheet. The only question then is, what do those look like? Hi everyone, I'm Matt from eTactics, and today I'm going to explain examples of effective HIPAA-compliant fax cover sheets. But before we get started, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the button below. While you're down there, hit that alert bell icon next to it as well, so when we post new helpful content, you get notified. Now, to stay within the scope of this video, I'm not going to explain in detail why you need to use a HIPAA-compliant fax cover sheet. That's for another time. Instead, I'm going to give you examples of what your cover sheets could look like and what they could contain. There's information that's wise to consider including to further mitigate risk and help your recipient identify what they're receiving without causing a breach. Your fax cover sheet should include your organization's name and or branding, the name of the employee who's sending the information, your organization's phone number, email, and address, the date and time of sending, the fax number that you're sending the information to, and a fax cover sheet that's reviewed by your corporate console. All of that information helps both parties involved by making what's faxed identifiable without going too far. In other words, sending patient records via fax with a cover sheet attached to it will bring you peace of mind. A well-formatted cover sheet makes it so that an unauthorized individual can pick up the record and deliver it immediately without having to worry too much about unintentional HIPAA violations. Everything listed in my recommendations within this section is straightforward, except for one, the disclaimer. Your HIPAA fax cover page disclaimer should only be a few words long, all well formatted in an easily digestible format. Well, it only takes a few seconds to read it. That way, the people you send it to are much more likely to take a look at it. Ideally, you only really need about 3 sentences. The first clause should state that the information provided behind the cover page may contain confidential information. Second, it should tell the recipient what to do if they're not the intended recipient. Third, it should wrap up by explaining what isn't allowed by those who receive it. By now, a question you might have for me is, should I even use a HIPAA fax cover sheet disclaimer in the first place? The answer to that question, of course, is yes. Your disclaimer is a nice touch that tells the recipient what your fax contains and that unauthorized individuals don't have permission to look past the front page. Of course, at the end of the day, it's just written words, so disclaimers have a limit on their effectiveness, yet it turns your cover sheet into an official legal document that communicates consequences for curiosity. Who knew that fax was still popular in this day and age? And even beyond that, who knew the effectiveness that could come with just adding a cover sheet and protecting yourself from a HIPAA violation? If you'd like to learn more about HIPAA compliant practices, reach out to eTactics. And you already made it this far into the video, so you might as well like it, share it, and comment below. Well, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to our YouTube channel.